The morning started like any other in the great council chamber. Ambassador Kethver walked through the tall doors and took his usual seat among the hundreds of other beings from across the galaxy. His blue skin shimmered under the bright lights as he opened his datapad to check the daily reports. There were always so many documents to review, so many small matters that needed attention from the member worlds. Jake Morrison entered the chamber quietly that day. The human captain wore his simple uniform and carried a single datapad in his hand. He had been coming to these meetings for 3 years now, always polite but never saying much. Most of the other ambassadors barely noticed him anymore. Humans were such a small part of the galaxy after all. Jake walked to the center podium and placed his datapad down. He pressed a few buttons and a holographic document appeared in the air above the device. The words were simple and clear. Notice of withdrawal from Galactic Council membership, effective immediately. Reason: philosophical differences regarding species development policies. The chamber buzzed with quiet conversations as beings noticed the display. Some looked confused while others seemed annoyed. Council Speaker Vextai, a tall creature made of living crystal from Proxima Centauri, glanced at the floating words and waved his hand dismissively. His voice echoed through the chamber as he spoke to his aide. Another human complaint. They are always unhappy about something. Their colonies, their exploration permits, their technology requests, let them sulk in their corner of space. They will come back when they need our help again. Jake stood at the podium for exactly 30 seconds. He looked around the chamber once, his face showing no emotion at all. Then he picked up his datapad, turned around, and walked out. The great doors closed behind him with a soft sound. No one in the chamber knew it would be the last time they would ever see a human representative. Ambassador Kethver filed the withdrawal notice with the other routine paperwork. He had seen dozens of species threaten to leave over the years. They always came back eventually. The galaxy was too big and too dangerous for small civilizations to survive on their own. The Council provided protection, trade routes, and access to advanced technology. No species could give up those benefits for long, but something was different this time. Over the next few days, other things began to happen. The human embassy in the neutral zone stopped answering communication requests. Their diplomatic ships disappeared from all tracking systems. Human workers at council facilities simply did not show up for their shifts. Dr. Susan Blake was working in her laboratory on the research station orbiting Kepler 442b when she received her orders. The message was encrypted and came through channels she had not used in years. Pack everything important. Destroy all research data. Return to Sol system immediately. No questions allowed. No delays accepted. Susan had been studying alien plant life for the Council for 7 years. Her work was important and she had made several breakthrough discoveries. But the orders were clear and she knew better than to argue. She began packing her personal items while her computer systems automatically deleted terabytes of research data. The human freight ships that carried goods between the outer colonies stopped making their scheduled runs. Mining operations that employed human workers went silent. Agricultural consultants who had been helping colony worlds improve their food production simply vanished. Research teams that included human scientists found their colleagues gone when they returned from field expeditions. Bobby Turner had been running the mining operation on asteroid belt Theta 9 for 8 years. He supervised 200 human workers who extracted rare metals that were essential for Council technology. One morning he received the same type of encrypted message that Susan had gotten. Pack up. Leave everything running on automatic. Go home now. Within 36 hours, every human presence in Council space had disappeared. They left behind no angry messages, no demands for better treatment, no threats of revenge. They simply packed their belongings and left. The automated systems they had been operating continued to function perfectly. The facilities they had built kept working normally. But the humans themselves were gone. Council Speaker Vextai noticed the reports about missing humans a few days later. He read through the files with mild interest but no real concern. Probably consolidating their resources, he told his staff. Humans were always inefficient with their logistics. This might actually be an improvement for everyone. The other council members agreed. If the humans wanted to isolate themselves in their small corner of the galaxy, that was their choice. The council had managed galactic affairs for thousands of years before humans joined, and they could easily continue without them. Some members even suggested that removing an unpredictable species like humanity might make council decisions easier to reach. None of them realized that humanity had just executed the largest and most sophisticated withdrawal in galactic history. None of them understood that the quiet, humble humans had been planning this moment for decades. And none of them suspected that they would never see another human again. 6 months passed before anyone in the council realized something was seriously wrong. The first problems appeared in the shipping reports. Trade routes that had depended on human freight services began showing delays. Colonies that ordered supplies found their deliveries late or missing completely. The efficient cargo networks that humans had quietly built over decades simply stopped working. Admiral Zurgoth of the Hegemony Defense Force was reviewing patrol reports when he noticed the strange pattern. His scaled fingers traced lines on the star map as he counted the missing contacts. For 4 months, not a single human vessel had been detected in 3 entire sectors of space. It was as if they had all simply disappeared into nothing. The Admiral called for his aide and pointed at the empty zones on the map. Where are the human ships? They used to run cargo through here every week. Now there is nothing. Have they changed their routes? His aide checked the database and found no record of any route changes. No applications for new shipping permits had been filed. No notifications of schedule modifications had been received. The human merchant fleet had just stopped operating without telling anyone. Admiral Zurgoth brought his concerns to the next security briefing. He stood before the Council Defense Committee and displayed his tracking data on the main screen. We have not detected any human activity in the Outer Rim for over 4 months. Their monitoring stations are not responding to our signals. Their patrol vessels have vanished from our sensors. Ambassador Kethvar listened to the report with growing irritation. They are probably having internal problems. Humans are always reorganizing their operations. This is likely just another one of their efficiency programs. Give them time to sort things out. But the problems kept getting worse. Dr. Lisa Parker had been the lead. As an archaeologist studying ancient ruins on Vegan 7, her team had been making important discoveries about the civilization that built the mysterious structures. When the research expedition returned to the site after a 2-week break, they found Lisa's lab completely empty. Her equipment was gone. Her research notes had been deleted from all computer systems. Even her personal belongings had been removed from her quarters. The only trace she left behind was a small message carved into the stone wall of the main excavation site. The words were simple but puzzling. Thank you for the knowledge. We will not forget. The expedition leader tried to contact Lisa through normal communication channels, but found that her personal codes had been deactivated. Her home address in the council database was listed as unknown. It was as if Dr. Lisa Parker had never existed. At all. Similar reports began coming in from research facilities across the galaxy. Human scientists who had been working on important projects for years suddenly vanished. They left behind no forwarding addresses, no explanations for their departures, and no way to contact them. Their research data had been carefully deleted, and their equipment was either missing or had been reset to factory settings. On the agricultural world of New Harvest, the colonial governor was becoming desperate. The human agricultural consultants who had been helping improve crop yields had disappeared 3 months ago. Without their expertise, the latest harvest was failing badly. The colonists did not understand the complex growing techniques that the humans had taught them. They left behind instruction manuals, the governor reported to the council, but the manuals are incomplete. They show the basic steps but not the detailed knowledge that made their methods work so well. It is like they deliberately removed the most important information. The mining operation on asteroid belt Fate 9 presented an even stranger situation. Bobby Turner and his entire crew of 200 human workers had vanished overnight. But The mining equipment continued to operate perfectly. Automated systems that the humans had programmed kept extracting valuable metals and processing them according to schedule. When council inspectors finally visited the facility, they found it running at peak efficiency with no human supervision at all. A simple note had been left in the main control room. Station operations transferred to automated protocols. Human oversight no longer required. The inspectors were amazed by the sophistication of the automated systems. The humans had apparently programmed every possible situation and emergency procedure into the computers. The mining operation could run for years without any outside help. Council Intelligence Director Yathana began to notice patterns in all these disappearances. She reviewed hundreds of reports from across the galaxy and found the same story everywhere. Humans had withdrawn from their positions quietly and efficiently. They had not demanded better treatment or threatened to cause problems. They had simply left. This is not random, she told her analysis team. These withdrawals are too well coordinated to be coincidental. Someone planned this very carefully. Her investigators tried to track the missing humans through financial records and transportation logs, but they found that human accounts had been closed and human travel records had been deleted from most databases. It was as if millions of humans had simply stepped out of galactic civilization without leaving any traces behind. The economic impact began to show within weeks. Supply chains that had depended on human logistics started breaking down. Research projects lost their human team members and had to be delayed or canceled. Agricultural colonies that relied on human farming knowledge faced potential food shortages. Council Speaker Vextai called an emergency session to discuss the growing crisis. This cannot continue, he declared to the assembled ambassadors. The humans may have withdrawn their official representation, but they still have obligations to the galactic community. We must contact their government and demand an explanation. But when the council tried to open communication with the Sol system, they found that all human government channels had gone silent. Earth itself was not responding to any signals. The entire human civilization had apparently cut off all contact with the outside galaxy. For the first time since the humans had joined the council, the other species began to realize how much they had depended on human services and expertise. The quiet, unremarkable humans had somehow become essential to the functioning of galactic civilization. And now they were gone. Council Intelligence Director Yathana spent weeks analyzing the human withdrawal before she discovered the disturbing truth. Her team of investigators had been looking at the disappearances as separate events, but when she put all the evidence together, a frightening pattern emerged. The humans had not just left suddenly. They had been planning their departure for decades. She called an emergency meeting of the Inner Council and stood before the most powerful beings in the galaxy. Her voice was steady, but her hands shook slightly as she activated the holographic display. The humans did not simply withdraw from our civilization. They have been systematically gathering our knowledge and copying our technology for over 50 years. The evidence filled the air above the conference table in glowing charts and data streams. Every human who had worked in council facilities had somehow gained access to information far beyond their official clearance levels. Dr. Amy Rodriguez, the brilliant physicist who had worked on energy research projects, had apparently downloaded terabytes of classified fusion reactor designs. Captain Peter Collins, who served as a military liaison, had quietly documented defense strategies and fleet positions from every major council species. How is this possible? Demanded Council Speaker Vextai. His crystal form flickered with agitation as he studied the data. Our security systems are protected by quantum encryption. Human technology should not be able to break our codes. Director Yathana highlighted a section of the display that showed intrusion logs from the past decade. The security breaches were not forced entries. Every access was made using legitimate authorization codes. The humans were given permission to view this information as part of their official duties. They simply viewed much more than we intended them to see. The scope of the intelligence operation was staggering. Lieutenant Colonel Ryan Murphy, who had been part of joint archaeological expeditions, had gained access to predecessor ruins that contained knowledge from the galaxy's most ancient civilization. The humans had not only studied these artifacts but had apparently deciphered sections of the ancient archives that Council scholars had been struggling with for centuries. Ambassador Kethver studied the archaeological data with growing alarm. These translation matrices are more advanced than anything our linguists have produced. The humans have solved puzzles that our best minds have worked on for thousands of years. How did they accomplish this so quickly? The answer came from analysis of human research patterns. Unlike other council species, humans had not focused on single areas of expertise. Instead, they had deliberately spread their people across every field of study. Human researchers had worked in physics, archaeology, biology, engineering, and dozens of other disciplines simultaneously. They had been building a complete picture of galactic knowledge rather than specializing in narrow fields. Dr. Lisa Parker's work on Vegan 7 was just one example. While studying ancient ruins, she had also been documenting alien writing systems, recording technological artifacts, and analyzing architectural principles. Her research notes showed that she had been comparing discoveries from dozens of different archaeological sites across the galaxy. They were not just studying individual subjects, Director Yathana explained. They were looking for connections between different areas of knowledge. They wanted to understand how everything fits together. The investigation revealed that humans had been exceptionally good at recognizing patterns that other species missed. Captain Jake Morrison, the diplomat who had delivered the withdrawal notice, had spent years attending council meetings and recording not just what was said, but how different species made decisions. His reports showed detailed analysis of political relationships and power structures throughout the galaxy. Bobby Turner's mining operation provided another piece of the puzzle. The automated systems he had left behind were not just running standard extraction procedures. They incorporated efficiency improvements that combined techniques from 6 different species. The humans had taken the best ideas from every civilization. They encountered and blended them into something new. Their learning curve was unprecedented, admitted Dr. Suthara, the Council's leading expert on species development. Most civilizations take centuries to fully understand technologies from other species. Humans were mastering our concepts in decades and then improving on them. The financial records told an even more troubling story. Human trading companies had been quietly acquiring raw materials and manufacturing components from across the galaxy. They had been stockpiling resources that individually seemed harmless but together could be used to build almost anything. The purchases were spread across hundreds of different suppliers and disguised as routine commercial transactions. Intelligence analysis showed that humans had been preparing for their withdrawal by becoming completely self-sufficient. They had learned to manufacture their own advanced technology, grow their own food, and process their own raw materials. They no longer needed anything from the Council civilizations. They used us, Council Speaker Vextai said quietly. His voice carried a mixture of admiration and fear. They joined our council not to become part of our civilization, but to learn everything they could from us. Once they had what they needed, they left. The most disturbing discovery came from deep analysis of human communication patterns. Encrypted messages had been hidden in routine diplomatic correspondence for years. When the Council's best codebreakers finally deciphered these messages, they found references to something called the Project and discussions about timeline acceleration. It became clear that every human in Council space had been part of a vast coordinated operation. Dr. Susan Blake's research into alien biology had not been purely scientific. She had been studying how different species adapted to various environments, gathering information that could be used for human colonization efforts. Captain Peter Collins had not just been documenting military capabilities for defense purposes. He had been analyzing the strategic weaknesses of every major civilization in the galaxy. They played a role for us, Director Yathana concluded. They appeared to be the struggling junior species that needed our guidance and protection. Meanwhile, they were conducting the most sophisticated intelligence operation in galactic history. The council members sat in stunned silence as they absorbed the implications. The humans had not just withdrawn from galactic civilization. They had thoroughly studied it, learned everything useful from it, and then quietly moved beyond it. The species that the council had considered primitive and dependent had somehow surpassed their teachers without anyone noticing. "What do we do now?" asked Ambassador Kethver. Director Yathana answer sent chills through the chamber. "We try to figure out what they are planning to do with all the knowledge they took." Admiral Coulter of the Vegan Navy received orders to lead the most important investigation in Council history. His mission was simple but terrifying: find out what the humans had really been doing during their decades in Council space. The joint task force he commanded included the best scientists, intelligence officers, and military analysts from 12 different species. Dr. Sithara, the Council's leading expert on alien civilizations, joined the team as chief xenosociologist. She had studied human behavior for 20 years and thought she understood their culture. Now she realized that everything she believed about humanity might be completely wrong. The investigation began at the abandoned human facilities scattered throughout Council space. The first site they examined was a research station orbiting the gas giant Kepler 438b. From the outside, it looked like a standard scientific outpost. But when the team boarded the station, they found technology that defied their understanding of human capabilities. "These fusion reactors are operating at 97% efficiency," reported Chief Engineer Voxton as he studied the power systems. "Our best reactors only achieve 85% efficiency. How did humans develop superior fusion technology?" The answer became clear when Dr. Sithara examined the design schematics left behind in the computer systems. The reactors did not use purely human technology or purely Council technology. Instead, they combined principles from multiple species in ways that none of those species had ever imagined. Human engineers had taken the best ideas from vegan power systems, Xanthari fuel processing, and hegemony containment fields to create something entirely new. Admiral Coulter ordered his teams to examine every piece of equipment on the station. What they found challenged everything the Council believed about technological development. Human manufacturing systems incorporated precision techniques from 6 different civilizations. Their computer networks used processing algorithms that blended concepts from a dozen species. Even their basic tools showed evidence of cross-species innovation. "They were not just copying our technology," Admiral Coulter reported to Council Command. "They were improving it by combining our different approaches. They found connections that we never noticed because we never worked together like this." The investigation moved to a mining facility hidden in the asteroid belt of the Proxima system. The location was so remote that Council surveys had never detected it. When the task force arrived, they found a massive complex that had been carefully dismantled and removed. Only the basic infrastructure remained, but even that showed capabilities far beyond expected human engineering. Dr. Charlie Brooks had been the human cultural attach assigned to this sector. His personal logs, recovered from a backup server, revealed the true purpose of the facility. It had not been a simple mining operation. It had been a testing ground for advanced manufacturing techniques that humans had developed by studying Council industrial methods. The humans were conducting experiments in zero-gravity construction that we never authorized, Dr. Sithara explained to the investigation team. They were learning to build things in space that would be impossible to construct on planetary surfaces. The evidence pointed to a level of human technological advancement that shocked the Council investigators. Hidden manufacturing sites throughout the outer systems showed that humans had been building equipment and vehicles using materials and methods that exceeded Council capabilities in many areas. On the desert world of Kepler 186f, the team discovered the remains of a massive construction project. Geological surveys indicated that something enormous had been built at the site and then carefully disassembled. The construction had required moving millions of tons of material, and the energy signatures suggested power systems that dwarfed anything in the Council inventory. Whatever they built here was larger than our biggest space stations, Admiral Coulter concluded after studying the site surveys. The power requirements alone would need fusion reactors operating beyond our theoretical maximums. The investigation revealed that humans had been conducting secret research projects across dozens of star systems. They had established hidden laboratories on remote moons, built experimental facilities in deep space, and created testing ranges in uninhabited systems. All of this activity had been completely invisible to Council monitoring systems. Dr. Amy Rodriguez's abandoned physics laboratory provided the most troubling discoveries. Her research notes showed that humans had been working on propulsion theories that went far beyond current Council science. The equations filled hundreds of pages and described methods for faster-than-light travel that could achieve speeds the Council had never imagined possible. These calculations suggest they were developing ships that could cross the entire galaxy in months rather than centuries, reported Dr. Fluxara, the Council's leading physicist. If their theories are correct, their vessels could outrun our fastest interceptors by factors of hundreds. The human embassy's computer cores yielded the final pieces of the puzzle. Buried in diplomatic correspondence were references to construction timelines and resource allocation schedules. The humans had been building something massive, and they had been working on it for decades. Captain Peter Collins had left behind encrypted files that contained detailed assessments of Council military capabilities. His analysis was frighteningly accurate and included strategic evaluations that identified weaknesses in every major fleet deployment. The humans had not just been studying Council technology. They had been analyzing Council defenses. They knew exactly how to avoid our detection systems, Admiral Coulter realized as he reviewed the military assessments. Every hidden facility was positioned to exploit blind spots in our sensor networks. They understood our capabilities better than we understood them ourselves. The scope of human planning became clear when the investigation team discovered coordination networks that had connected human operations across the galaxy. Encrypted communication relays had allowed instant contact between facilities separated by thousands of light years. The humans had maintained better coordination across galactic distances than the Council managed with all its advanced technology. Dr. Suthara compiled the final report after months of investigation. Her conclusions were delivered to the full Council in a closed session that left the chamber in stunned silence. Humanity was never a primitive species seeking our guidance, she announced. They were an advanced civilization conducting a comprehensive study of our capabilities. Every human who worked with us was gathering intelligence for a project that we are only beginning to understand. The evidence painted a picture of human society that was completely different from Council assumptions. Far from being disorganized and short-sighted, humans had demonstrated planning capabilities that exceeded every other known civilization. They had executed a multi-generational strategy with precision that suggested levels of social coordination the Council had never achieved. What were they building? Asked Council Speaker Vextai. Dr. Suthara's answer would haunt the Council for years to come. Something that required them to learn everything we know and then surpass it completely. The truth came from an unexpected source. A derelict probe drifting in the void between the Vega and Centauri systems was detected by a routine patrol 3 months after the investigation began. The probe's design was unmistakably human, but its technology incorporated innovations that left Council scientists completely baffled. The probe's hull was made from materials that showed properties impossible according to known physics. It was simultaneously transparent to most sensor scans but completely impervious to radiation damage. The propulsion system had no moving parts but generated thrust levels that exceeded the theoretical limits of reaction drives. Dr. Fluxara led the team that examined the probe in detail. This technology is centuries ahead of anything in our databases, she reported to Admiral Coulter. The humans have made breakthrough discoveries that we cannot even begin to understand. When the team finally managed to access the probe's data, core, they found a message that would change their understanding of humanity forever. The recording showed Admiral Helen Cross, the former human military liaison to the Council Defense Committee. She stood in what appeared to be the command center of a massive space station. "To our former colleagues in the Galactic Council," Admiral Cross began, her voice calm and professional, "we want you to know that our departure was not motivated by anger or resentment. We are grateful for the knowledge and experiences we gained during our association with your civilizations." Through the viewports behind Admiral Cross, the construction of enormous vessels was clearly visible. The ships were so large that they dwarfed anything in the Council fleets. Their design incorporated flowing curves and geometric patterns that suggested both artistic beauty and incredible engineering sophistication. "Over the past century, we observed how the Council operates," Admiral Cross continued. "We learned about your technologies, your philosophies, and your approaches to galactic governance. We also learned about your limitations." The recording revealed details that shocked the Council investigators. Admiral Cross spoke casually about human achievements that the Council had considered impossible. She described manufacturing processes that could build structures the size of small moons. She mentioned energy systems that could power entire star systems. She discussed propulsion technologies that could move planets through space. "While we respect your accomplishments, we have concluded that humanity's path lies elsewhere," Admiral Cross announced. "We have outgrown the constraints of this galaxy's political and technological limitations." The implications of her words hit the Council team like a physical blow. The humans had not just learned from Council civilizations. They had surpassed them so completely that they considered the entire galaxy to be beneath their capabilities. "We are departing this galaxy," Admiral Cross stated matter-of-factly. "Our destination is the Andromeda Galaxy, where we can develop our civilization without the constraints of existing political structures. We estimate the journey will take approximately 2 centuries with our current propulsion technology." Admiral Coulter paused the recording and stared at the image frozen on the screen. 2 centuries to reach another galaxy. That means their ships are traveling at speeds that make our fastest vessels look like stationary objects. Dr. Sithara studied the massive ships visible through the viewports behind Admiral Cross. "Those vessels are not just spacecraft. They are mobile civilizations. They could carry millions of people along with complete industrial facilities and agricultural systems." The recording continued with Admiral Cross providing coordinates to observation posts throughout the galaxy. "We leave behind automated beacons that will monitor this galaxy's development. If any species achieves true interstellar unity and develops beyond the current Council limitations, they will be welcome to follow our path." The coordinates led Council investigators to monitoring stations that had been operating undetected for decades. The stations were technological marvels that used stealth systems beyond Council understanding. They had been quietly watching and recording every aspect of galactic civilization while remaining completely invisible to the most advanced sensor networks. "They have been studying us like laboratory specimens," Council Speaker Vextai said when he reviewed the monitoring data. "Every political decision, every technological development, every military deployment has been recorded and analyzed. The monitoring stations contained detailed assessments of every Council species. The human analysis was frighteningly accurate and identified patterns that Council scholars had never recognized. The humans had diagnosed problems in galactic civilization that the Council was only beginning to acknowledge. According to the human assessments, Council civilization had been stagnating for millennia. Political structures had become rigid and resistant to change. Technological development had slowed as species became comfortable with existing capabilities. Social evolution had nearly stopped as established cultures became unwilling to adapt to new circumstances. They saw us as a dead end, Dr. Sithara realized as she studied the human evaluations. They concluded that our civilization had reached its peak and would never develop beyond current limitations. The most disturbing discovery was the human timeline for galactic development. Their projections showed that Council civilization would likely collapse within 10,000 years due to internal contradictions and external pressures. The analysis was supported by mathematical models that incorporated thousands of variables and historical precedents. Admiral Cross had included personal messages for several council leaders in the probe's data storage. Her message for council. Speaker Vextai was particularly sobering. You asked us many times why humanity seemed so eager to explore the unknown regions of space, Admiral Cross said in the recording. The answer is that we recognized this galaxy's limitations before you did. We came here to learn what we could and then move on to something greater. Her message for Admiral Coulter was even more direct. Your military strategies are based on controlling territory and resources within a fixed system. Our strategies are based on transcending the system entirely. We learned everything we needed from your approaches and then developed methods that make territorial control irrelevant. The probe contained technical specifications for some of the human achievements that had seemed impossible. They're faster than light. Drives used principles that combine council physics with discoveries from the ancient predecessor ruins. Their manufacturing systems incorporated biological processes that could grow complex structures from basic materials. Their energy systems tapped directly into the quantum fluctuations of empty space. They did not just improve our technology, Dr. Fluxara explained to the investigation team. They found completely new approaches that make our methods obsolete. The final section of Admiral Cross's message addressed the future relationship between humanity and the Council civilizations. We will continue to monitor this galaxy's development from our new home. If you manage to overcome your current limitations and achieve true unity and technological transcendence, we will welcome contact. Until then, this galaxy belongs to you. The recording ended with a simple statement that would haunt the Council for generations. We thank you for teaching us what we needed to know about the limitations of conventional galactic civilization. Your example helped us understand why we needed to find a different path. As the investigation team reviewed the evidence from the probe, the magnitude of humanity's achievement became clear. They had not just withdrawn from galactic civilization. They had evolved beyond it entirely. While the Council had been focused on managing existing systems and maintaining stability, humanity had been preparing to transcend the very concept of galactic politics. The species that the Council had considered primitive and dependent had become something that the Council could not even comprehend. And by the time the Council realized what had happened, humanity was already beyond their reach forever. The Council's response was immediate and desperate. Every available warship in the galaxy received emergency orders to converge on the Sol system. Fleet Admiral Zethgon commanded the largest military force in galactic history as hundreds of vessels from dozens of species raced toward Earth. They had one mission: intercept the human exodus before it was too late. The journey to Sol took 3 weeks even at maximum speed. During that time, Council scientists worked frantically to understand the technology they had discovered in the human probe. Dr. Fluxara and her team tried to reverse engineer the propulsion systems, but the principles involved were so advanced that they could barely comprehend the basic concepts. Their mathematics describe interactions with dimensions that we cannot even detect, Dr. Fluxara reported to Fleet Admiral Zethgon. They have developed physics that goes beyond our fundamental understanding of reality. When the Council fleet finally arrived at the Sol system, they found a solar system transformed beyond recognition. Mars had been converted into the largest shipyard anyone had ever seen. The planet's surface was covered with launch platforms, manufacturing complexes, and construction facilities that stretched from pole to pole. Jupiter's moons had been hollowed out and converted into massive resource processing centers. Europa, Ganymede, and Callisto had become industrial complexes that could manufacture materials on a scale that dwarfed the combined production capacity of every Council world. The asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter had been completely reorganized. What had once been scattered rocks was now a structured ring of mining platforms and refining facilities, connected by transportation networks that moved materials with perfect efficiency. But the most shocking discovery was Earth itself, the planet. was gone, not destroyed, not damaged, not evacuated. Simply gone. In its place was a sophisticated space station that broadcast a continuous message on all communication frequencies. "Thank you for your patience during our relocation process," the message said in perfect Council standard language. "Sol system available for colonization. Previous inhabitants have departed for Andromeda Galaxy. Estimated arrival time, 2387 CE. Good luck with your own development." Fleet Admiral Zethgon ordered long-range sensor sweeps to search for any trace of the missing planet. The readings showed massive energy signatures moving through intergalactic space in the direction of the Andromeda Galaxy. Whatever propulsion technology humanity had developed, it was capable of moving an entire world through the void between galaxies. "How do you move a planet?" asked Admiral Coulter as he studied the sensor data. "The energy requirements would exceed the output of our largest power stations by factors of millions." The answer came from analysis of the construction sites scattered throughout the Sol system. The humans had built devices that could manipulate gravity itself. They had developed technology that could create stable wormholes through spacetime. They had mastered engineering on a scale that treated planets like construction materials. Dr. Sithara examined the abandoned facilities on Mars and found records that revealed the scope of human preparation. "They have been planning this relocation for over 200 years," she reported to the Fleet Command. "Every resource allocation, every population movement, every technological development was part of this single massive project. The humans had not just taken their planet with them, they had taken their entire civilization." The space stations scattered throughout the Sol system contained detailed records of human history, culture, and knowledge. They had left behind a complete archive of their development for anyone who might want to study it, but they had also left behind warnings. The automated systems that maintained the archive were programmed to deliver a specific message to any council representatives. "Access the files. You consistently underestimated our capabilities because you assumed that less advanced meant less intelligent," the message stated. "This assumption was your greatest weakness and our greatest advantage. We learned everything we could from you and then moved beyond your limitations." The archive contained human assessments of every council species that were more accurate than the council's own self-evaluations. The humans had identified social, technological, and political problems that council leaders had never recognized. Their analysis predicted the eventual stagnation and decline of galactic civilization with mathematical precision. "They saw us as a cautionary example," Dr. Sithara realized as she reviewed the human predictions. "They studied our civilization to learn what not to become." Fleet Admiral Zethgon authorized pursuit operations to track the human exodus. The Council's fastest ships were sent toward the edge of the galaxy with orders to establish contact with the departing humans. But the energy signatures they were following moved at speeds that made pursuit impossible. "Their vessels are traveling at velocities that our physics say should be impossible," reported Captain Nextho of the pursuit squadron. "They are accelerating continuously without any apparent reaction mass. They are violating conservation of momentum on a massive scale." The pursuit mission was abandoned after 2 months when it became clear that the human fleet was beyond the reach of any council technology. The humans had achieved capabilities that allowed them to treat the laws of physics as suggestions rather than absolute limits. Council Speaker Vextai called an emergency session to address the crisis. The full council assembled for the first time in decades as representatives from every member species gathered to discuss the implications of humanity's departure. "We must ask ourselves how this happened," Council Speaker Vextai announced to the Assembly. "How did we fail to recognize the true capabilities of an entire civilization? How did we allow them to surpass us so completely while we remained blind to their progress?" The answers were difficult for the Council to accept. Ambassador Kethver presented the intelligence analysis that showed how human behavior had been consistently misinterpreted. "We saw their curiosity as primitive wonder. We saw their questions as ignorance. We saw their eagerness to learn as dependence on our guidance. Dr. Sithara provided the psychological assessment that explained the depth of the Council's mistake. Humans used our prejudices against us. They allowed us to believe that they were inferior because it gave them access to our knowledge without raising our suspicions. The final report on the human exodus filled thousands of pages and represented the most comprehensive analysis of intelligence failure in galactic history. The conclusions were sobering and unavoidable. Humanity had achieved technological transcendence while appearing to be a struggling junior species. They had demonstrated social coordination that exceeded anything in Council experience. They had developed scientific understanding that made Council knowledge seem primitive. And they had done all of this while maintaining perfect operational security for over 2 centuries. They were always more advanced than us, Council Speaker Vextai admitted in his closing statement. We just never realized it because they were also more intelligent than us. The Sol system became a monument to the Council's greatest failure. The automated systems that humanity had left behind continued to function perfectly, maintaining the archive and broadcasting their farewell message to anyone who visited. But the humans themselves were gone forever, carrying with them the next stage of galactic evolution. In the end, humanity's greatest achievement was not their technology or their ships. It was their ability to recognize when it was time to move beyond the limitations of their current environment. While the Council remained trapped by their assumptions and traditions, humanity had quietly prepared for transcendence. By the time the Council realized their mistake, humanity was already 200 light-years toward Andromeda, carrying with them not just their civilization but perhaps the future of intelligence itself in the universe.